Committee to order. It is 6:35. We do have a quorum. We have Lennox, Great Barrington, Sheffield, and that's it.
Lady.
No, you're not on the committee.
Oh, okay.
But well intended.
Yes.
Exactly.
So we have a quorum, and which means we can take votes that count if need be. We also have a new member, or I should say a repeat member, an old member, but now a new member, Dan Miller from Great Barrington, who will be with us. Now we can go ahead with the rest of the meeting. We'll start with the reading of the minutes. Do I have a motion to dispense with the reading?
I'll make a motion, we approve the meeting minutes of March 8th,
Second.
2022 as presented.
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Done with that. Okay, we're going to start with the Ctsb report.
Okay. Does everyone have a copy of our annual report? If you don't, there's, we have digital copies and paper copies, so there you go.
Thank you.
So my report tonight is going to go over some of the highlights from the past year as outlined in our annual report. But I do want to start with before I get to that, I wanted to start with a comment from our board president, Mary Philpott. I did present to her a rough draft of the 5-town cable TV subscriber survey, and she had some comments and questions about it. So I'm going to start with a comment from our board president about that survey. 5-town I'll tell you when the quotes are for Mary's comment. But the 5-town cable TV subscriber survey paints a bleak picture for how many people watch CTSB and are aware of CTSB. The CTSB board feels the results are a little misleading, as our board president, Mary Philpott, points out in the following. And again, don't shoot the messenger, I'm just presenting, I presented it to her, and she had the following statement. Quote, the results presents are misleading for the following reasons. About 462 answered the survey, but 25%, 113 of the respondents don't subscribe. So questions like, are you familiar with channels 1301, 1302, and 1303 should have been asked of people who are subscribers. Those who don't subscribe wouldn't know of those channels. They also wouldn't be watching if they don't subscribe. Those questions should only have been asked of subscribers, as well as questions 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15 as well. If you don't know a show exists on the channels, you might not be aware that you could see them on ctsbtv.org unless the link is published somewhere. The comments about Spectrum services need to be addressed by Spectrum via the advisory committee and should have a report to the communities. Even on the comments, you don't know if these are subscribers making these comments or non-subscribers. For example, if someone said the service is too expensive, there is no way of knowing if this person doesn't subscribe because it's too expensive or what. That from Mary Philpott. Okay. Moving on to my report.
Okay.
Community television, and I have a lot here, but I'm going to try and breeze through it because I know we have other issues to talk about tonight. Community television for the Southern Berkshires has worked diligently over the past year to attract new members, upgrade our member equipment, and bring important meetings to our community. We are able to share through cable, online, and now with the ability to live stream any event, such as we did with the annual Fall Festival of Shakespeare and the recent visit to Great Barrington by Congressman Jamie Raskin. We've been partnering with more and more local organizations to train and create videos which are shared throughout the community and beyond. While CTSB is better than ever, we continue to be concerned with possible loss of funding moving forward as more and more people choose to watch via the internet. CTSB has invested heavily to bring our content to our community online. Most people are directed to tune into our website rather than our channels, as the numbers are not easy to locate outside of our CTSB advertising campaign and community outreach efforts. I would say 95% of people that call ask where they can find something on our website rather than on our channel numbers. And I'm just saying that because that's where the world is going. Everything is internet-based, and there's many people in our community who are not internet savvy. And I understand that, and we do promote our channel numbers, and we have advertising campaigns, which I'll talk about further down, to promote that. So I'm not leaving out the channel numbers, I'm just saying that the majority is based around the internet. So most people are directed to our website. We have our advertising campaign. I feel many people do not watch because of the loss of our lower tier channel numbers and sub-quality non-HD signal. Our online broadcasting presents our work in HD and verifies there is a large community interest in CTSB productions and government meetings. The annual Fall Festival of Shakespeare, which was streamed for the first time last year, saw 600 viewers per day. Jamie Raskin event, which only lasted 2 hours, measured over 200 views during the 2-hour event. And our Facebook metadata verifies hundreds of views, followers, in addition to thousands of clicks and views on day-to-day school and town meetings. Again, online I can verify we have views and followers, people are watching and connecting with us. I can't verify any of that on our cable channels. There's zero information. The daily workload for CTSB staff has been exceptional, as most of us continually work beyond normal business hours. For example, Zoom meetings covered by CTSB staff have skyrocketed. The amount of meetings in-person meetings pre-pandemic were about 50 meetings per year for the town of Stockbridge. This past year with Zoom, our incredibly small staff of only 4 covered over 250 meetings for the town of Stockbridge alone. Okay, I'm going to move on to the highlights in our annual report. This is not everything. Please read our report. There's lots of great information in there. I'm just covering a few basic highlights. Our mission of local originated media remains strong, not only through the effort of the staff, but by our dedicated board members who continue to make sound decisions on our current goals and future projection. Our new operations manager, Erica Spitz, brings a vast array of technical experience and current technology, as well as having an invaluable connection with many community members. Shane Bruno has implemented a new software program called Media Center Management, which allows us to scan an equipment, check out equipment. It sends out email notifications to members who their membership is expiring. It's a really great piece of software. We've labeled all of our equipment, has barcodes and is scannable now. So Shane's done a great job on that. Shane's taken our YouTube and Vimeo channels and organized them into digital libraries. And Shane's allowed the numbers of likes and followers to soar. Currently, CTSB has almost 9,000 YouTube views, 1,445 Facebook visits, 435 Instagram visits. This is all since January. Our current membership, including organizations, stands at 154. This is the highest it's ever been. Stephen Borns not only provides the programming for our 3 channels, he's created all these Zoom accounts that allows the towns to provide meetings remotely, meetings and webinars. Steve has set up these accounts to allow multiple meetings to happen at the same time. Steve also hosts a lot of these meetings, and he helps the towns set up, he helps the town's boards. He guides their commissions and committees and participants through the process of Zoom. And Steve has documented the thousands of hours of programming at the end of our annual report if you're interested in seeing the overall numbers of shows in town meetings. We've added a part-time videographer to our staff. Not an additional cost, but because we lost about 6 or 7 paid videographers. So Joe is 25 hours per week. He's a former cameraman from YNN in Albany. He's a great storyteller. Joe's show, one of the many things that Joe does is a show called Ctsb Community Highlights, and that can be seen in between our shows where the PowerPoint slides are on. He's only been here a few months. He's covered a full season of Lennox lacrosse. He covered a new business that started up at the Red Lion Inn, trash cleanup in Lee, Sculpture Now exhibit, and the list goes on and on and on. So this is a great addition to see local happenings in your town. And Joe's a really great storyteller. We have a new members room, which is our former board room, which we no longer need because of Zoom. We've turned that into a room where people can come in and check out equipment and test things and play with things and dub off old VHS tapes and things like that. So that's a great new room within the building. CTSB partnerships with local organizations are growing, and we provide more training and access to our facilities and equipment than ever. Organizations can better connect to our community through the use of videos, virtual annual galas, recorded performances, college internships, such as CATA, Shakespeare, Austin Riggs, Berkshire College Internship Program, Lee Library, Lee Historical Society, the Wham Theater, the Mahawi Theater, amongst many others. For example, the Berkshire CIP program gives college-age students with high-functioning ADHD and autism to spend a few hours each week at CTSB creating videos through the summer. I love working with these kids. It's right up my alley. I wanted to go into education before I came to CTSB, so working with these kids has been amazing. We were presented with an award a few weeks ago for by CIP for outstanding service from a community partner. So that was great to win an award. We've also taken on a PBS show. There's a show that comes out of Mill River called Steve's Garage. It's been on PBS for 2 years. We're taking control of the 3rd season, and we're recording it and editing it and presenting it to PBS under very strict broadcasting standards. So we've taken on that project on top of everything else. Our marketing campaign has grown with lawn signs promoting our channel numbers, hats, decals, postcards, ads in the Shopper, Berkshire Edge, and we'll soon be creating local ads to run on WSBS and WBCR. We now have a live weather camera on our building. The live look outside can be seen in between shows, during our billboard slides, which promote local services. We hope to have more cameras soon around all 5 towns. So you can go on our website and see live cameras from each town, in addition to our building. So that's another great thing that's coming. And finally, looking forward to new ideas in 2022. We're looking forward to working with the 5-town Cable Advisory Commission as we prepare to negotiate a new contract with the Spectrum Charter. We hope to receive some capital funding to do some major upgrades in the future. We've worked on a multi-year spending plan already, things for such as items for computers, LED lighting, studio switchers, and such. And we will continue to watch state and federal bills protecting community television, as there's 2 or 3 of them out there right now. And then finally, a message to our members: if you've not utilized CTSB lately, please take the time to rediscover us, share a story in your community, interview someone that makes a difference, or become a host of a TV show. We're here to help, and we look forward to seeing new and familiar faces throughout 2022. Lastly, I just want to say I think we've gotten a lot of comments about customer service. We're always in the building, we're always there to help. On a moment's notice, we can help people out with the recordings or technical help or Zoom or accessing a town meeting or a recorded meeting. And that's my report.
Very well done.
Yes,
Thanks.
we sure hear you.
Excellent. Excellent report, but the material that you reported is quite impressive.
Thank you.
We really appreciate all the work that you guys put in it. A big shout out to Steve for him and your new guy, what did you say, Joe?
Joe.
Yeah. It sounds like you're gelling nicely there.
Great team.
Yeah. Excellent, excellent. Any questions, any comments?
Just how essential, your station is to the community. You're the glue that brings us all together.
Mm-hmm.
Congratulations.
Yeah. And I'm glad to see membership is up,
Yep.
but it can always be higher. So membership is open. Anytime you want to become a member, it's there. CTSB would love to have you join. Also, there's a dire need for volunteers. You don't have to be a member to be a volunteer. You can be a volunteer without being a member. You can also be a member without being a volunteer. So all those places at CTSB are open for you. Thanks, Rich.
Thank
Oh,
you.
yeah.
No,
Yeah.
Go ahead.
no,
No,
please.
go ahead. You're new.
I don't, yeah, that's the problem. Okay, I have a lot of catching up to do.
First of all, I am deeply aware of the work that goes into what goes on at CTSB, albeit the fact that I haven't been a part of that since 2001. A lot of technical advances. I think it's great. A lot of what I envisioned many years ago has come to fruition. And live meetings, streaming, the whole 9 yards. I think that's great. We when I left, it was in its infancy. We were talking, trying to stream something over dial-up wasn't practical. That being said, I have several issues. One being awareness. There's a distinct lack of awareness as to who and what CTSB is. I talk to people all the time.
Right.
And there's a huge, you talk about numbers being misleading, that may be, but there's a huge lack of information getting out to the average person as to who and what CTSB is and what it does. I think that needs to be addressed. I don't know who does the public, who does public relations. I don't know whether you're just not hitting the right markets. I don't know whether, advertising. I don't know. I don't know. I don't want to get involved in the nitty gritty of it. I'm just saying somehow there has to be an outreach that reaches people.
Yeah.
All right. I don't necessarily seek out CTSB stuff. I look for where I can find it just doing my everyday stuff, whether it's listening to the radio, walking downtown, going to town hall, whatever. I don't see it yet. Anyhow, as far as finding CTSB, I think it's great that you have the options of going to the CTSB website. That's terrific. Not everybody is computer literate. There's a lot of smart TV users out there. A lot of people who are using a number of smart app devices, whether it's Roku, whether it's built into the TV, whatever. This is not necessarily your fault. Hopefully somebody from Spectrum can address this. But if I go to find CTSB on my TV, it's not there.
It is.
It is.
No, the channels are not there. Trust me, I know.
Do you have a basic
They're
tier,
not there.
or are you streaming everything?
Streaming.
No, it's on a Samsung TV. It's the Spectrum app, and if I go to the channel,
Yeah, we're
that
not on the
Okay.
app yet.
Yeah.
Yep.
you're not
Okay,
on
so-
the app.
Yeah, they're not on the app.
And why is
So
that?
you're streaming then? You're not a
Well, no,
cable
I don't have
TV?
a converter box. No,
Okay.
no. But
Yeah.
I think that's a huge
Yeah.
percentage.
Yeah, and we can get an app through our own broadcasting service, which is about $4,000 or $5,000 a year, so we've kind of held off on that. We've invested so heavily in streaming in the internet, but we don't receive any funding from that. So we're kind of like sticking our neck out there, like bringing all this internet services to people, but we're not receiving a penny back for that. We spent hundreds of thousands of dollars to stream. Our advertising campaign is about $15,000 a year, so that covers the Berkshire Edge banner on top, the shopper, the lawn signs, the stickers, the various other things that we do. We have Ben Hillman from Big Tentacle Media, who is a local professional in advertising campaigns on a national basis. He's kind of in charge of our advertising campaign, and he tells us where we need to be and what we need to be doing within that $15,000, and that's what we're doing right now. People still come in every day and say, I didn't know you guys were here. I didn't know you existed. I thought you were gone years ago. I don't know where your channels are. I agree with you. We hear it every day, and that's the big challenge. Because when they discover us, they're like, for $20 a year, I can get this entire building and all this equipment. They're flabbergasted,
Right.
and that's our big challenge.
My question is what is the barrier to piggybacking off the Spectrum app? Or, is that a possibility, or is it not? Is it just a non-existent?
No, I think
avenue?
it's a great question. I don't think we've looked into that too much to date, so I don't know.
Okay.
if Spectrum if they would offer us that, if it comes at a fee, I don't know. I don't know.
Is that something you
Excuse me,
can look
Rich.
into?
John, can you look into that for us?
Sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, I do know PCTV in Pittsfield, they advertise some sort of an app. But again, I think they're paying for that through their broadcasting system like Tightrope. I don't
Right.
think it's through Spectrum. I think you pay Tightrope the $5,000 a year, and then you just tell Spectrum that someone built you out an app, and you want to put your app, you can download your app. through
Yeah,
any-
but again, that's just another
Yeah.
layer.
Yeah.
Right.
If someone has the Spectrum app already,
Right.
and they're already watching hundreds of channels through the app,
Yeah,
what's 2 or 3 more,
Right.
For CTSB?
Yeah.
I think it should be pointed out, though, that there's a difference between streaming TV and cable TV.
Oh, exactly,
What you're
yeah,
talking
one
about
uses
is
a cable
streaming
box,
TV.
right.
What this committee is representing cable TV. The license represents cable TV. not
Right,
streaming
but we
TV.
also oversee CTSB,
That is
which,
correct.
which
Right.
in and of itself, if it's not reaching the community in some way that it could,
Right,
even though we don't oversee the streaming aspect of it,
Right.
I think it's important for CTSB as an organization
absolutely.
to pursue something along that line,
absolutely.
even though we have no oversight over
With
it.
Charter Spectrum as well as Hulu,
Yeah.
as well as all the other streaming
Right.
services. So
Right.
it's not just one issue, it's a state issue or a federal issue.
Well,
There's a bill right now in the Senate that it might fund, public or
oh, yeah,
community.
that's a
So
whole nother,
there's-
that's a whole nother issue.
Yeah.
I'm just, I'm talking about the design of the app and people being able to access CTSB
Yeah,
through Spectrum,
yeah.
whether it's cable box or whatever, it's supposed to be the same.
It's a great point. It's something that I think has been discussed, and
Okay.
just how far do we want to go on the internet without receiving funding? But I think you make a great point that we still need to put ourselves out there and everywhere. And I'll bet you the next time I come here, I have a great update for you, because I think it is a great idea.
Great.
Yep.
Okay, so,
I think Janice made a great point,
Mhm.
and it kind of presents a little bit of a bifurcated mission for this group, but it's always been there. And we try to work very closely with CTSB, but if we're going streaming, then we have to figure out that way. But I wanted to just ask you, because I was interested in what you had to say, Rich, about the lack of any info or data on the cable channel viewership. Why is that? It just doesn't exist? It's never existed?
It's never existed to my knowledge. I believe we've asked Spectrum representatives in the past, and I guess it's proprietary on their end as to the numbers of people who view. I could be wrong. So say Channel 13 or Channel 6 in Albany, they have to pay these independent companies. John, you probably know the name of who I'm trying to talk about, but the people that come in and they put a box in your TV and they monitor your watching habits. They pay to figure out Nielsen, right? So they pay hundreds of thousands of dollars a year to have these Nielsen reports. So maybe Spectrum is unable to measure how many people are watching CTSB. And that's why these news stations around here pay Nielsen all this money, because there's just no way to measure. I've never seen any number on how many people watch us on cable. I've never
Spectrum
seen
has their own company called Spectrum Reach, and it digs into that. It watches everything that you watch. It's supposed to be anonymous, but it directs people selling things to people who are buying things.
Yeah, I think what Rich is looking for is, I'm assuming that.
They have that data, though.
Data is used
Yeah.
to establish the prices
You're right.
that a particular entity is going to pay, whoever that provider is.
Correct.
The more Nielsen eyes you've got, the more you're gonna pay or something, but you're not really looking to use this data other than to understand who your viewership is. I mean, you're not selling the data to somebody in Berkshire County to then turn around and use for targeted advertising.
It's possible, though, that they would do it as a public service, provide that information to Rich.
So, John, do you have any comments on this? I mean, this topic is just coming up, but, and then let's see what Dennis just said. So, do you have any way do you know if Spectrum has any way of providing Rich with specific viewer data on who watches those 3 channels? I mean, I doubt that he's looking at data the same way that Nielsen is.
Yeah, not that I'm aware of, but I don't know a lot about Nielsen, but I suspect that it's more for the broadcast channels. I don't know that it
It's
would
broadcast.
monitor pig channels for every
That could
community.
be, absolutely.
Footprint.
And then, Dennis, with what you were saying, is there some information that you might be able to give Rich to follow up on what you were just talking about? Or are all these
Yeah.
monitors, they
You can
won't
go
charge?
on the web and look for Spectrum Reach, and it's a way for people to use Spectrum as an advertising vehicle, I guess. And what they do, they'll connect, they'll look at the people across the viewership, and they'll actually target people who might buy a car or might be interested in a house by the programs they watch.
So they're not gonna give that away for free?
Well, I don't know. You
No,
know,
they might.
You could ask.
Yeah,
If
I-
the
I-
data
I've heard
exists,
ask.
If you don't
data
ask, you
exists,
don't
it
learn.
won't cost her
Yeah,
any more
don't
to.
ask, you don't get.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other thing that I was interested in, Rich, and I know this has been an ongoing discussion, you talked about the quality of the signal on the PIG channels, and of course, the PIG channel numbers. I'm behind in a to-do to work with Rich on something, and now that I know that Ben is involved in this, that makes it interesting. We just have, I think, people who just, it's 1301, it's 1302, it's 1303. Are we going to talk about that later in this meeting? The numbering of PIG channels?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
it's part of the
Okay,
survey.
all right, so I'm going to defer that
That's in the
to that.
survey.
Yeah, I'm going to defer that to that.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, that your president of CTSB, you know, I think her comments may be very appropriate, but I still think that the subscribers, I think it's important to try and capture the larger message. Okay, I mean, I think we do have an identity problem of people knowing about CTSB, and there's so much work that goes into it, and, you know, it's just not making it, not through any fault of your own, but I think we have to hone in on what those factors might be. I mean, I think that's an objective for the next fiscal year, is to find out what's keeping people away,
Yep.
whether it's the streaming and the app costs, or whether it's just, I can't find the channels, I don't know where they've gone, I can't set my, you know,
Yeah.
my thing to 1301, 2, or 3. And so I'm not, I mean, somebody on the survey said they didn't want to push up to 1301, which was like, oh my gosh, just, they couldn't program their controller, so they were, I don't want to push up to 1301. I mean,
All you have to do is push
2 or 1 is
3, 0, 1.
I know, but some people may not know that. It's
I
not
know.
difficult to do
No,
when you
I,
can
look,
program
I
it.
have, my
Yeah.
husband doesn't do that,
Yeah.
so.
Thank you, Rich.
Sure, sure, yeah, I just want to say, I think historically, the PEG stations being in 16, 17, and 18, you know, a lot of people bounce between the 1 through 10 and 20 through 30, and don't go much higher, and it was a way to kind of stumble upon community. You know, I know back in the day when I went from 1 to 25, I always saw PCTV on those channels, and I would tune in briefly and catch things, but now it's just, yeah, I don't know, I don't think people surf that high.
And most of the time, when you go above 100, because I've looked at this, you start repeating the whole lineup.
Right.
Yeah.
From 1 to 99, you go to 200. There are differences, but you start repeating the whole lineup. So if you don't find it in the first 100 channels, the likelihood is,
But at the top of all those numbers are all of the music channels.
Yeah.
so it's inappropriate.
Okay, look,
So, yeah.
we know that there's, and we have to address it. And we'll have to, when we finish getting the big elephant in the room, which is the new contract, we will put considerably more attention to it. Yeah.
Great,
So-
yeah, again, I thank the CAC for your work, because you're here to defend us and bring us into the future, so again, just
Yeah,
thank you.
they got moved off the lower
And,
tier.
and we Dennis and I actually were talking about some of the things that we
Yeah, which is within
want
their
to
purview,
get
they
going
could. We
with you
can't do
guys
anything about
to
it.
protect your income amongst other things.
Great.
So, okay, any more for Rich?
Yeah, I just wanted, it's a really quick follow-up to
Really
what I
quick.
said. Yes, I will try to make it within 30 seconds. There is some streaming of CTSB, and I'm trying to refresh some of the gray matter on my, relative to that. I think that if I access Spectrum through a web browser, I have watched one or two, maybe all three, I don't know, of the channels. So
Streaming?
Yeah,
Yeah, no, we only stream to our website. Our signal comes out of our.
well, somehow it ended up, and I've seen it, not going through CTSB,
Mhm. Wow, okay.
but through Spectrum. So somehow it's getting there. I could be wrong.
Mhm.
I will double check myself.
Okay.
All right. But in the meantime, yeah, if you could follow up and see if there's a way to
Sure,
get into their app,
sure,
I
yeah.
think it would be an immense help. And I don't know what the percentages of internet streaming-based Spectrum subscriberships versus cable box. You know, I've got 5 TVs in my house. I'm not gonna have a cable box for every single one. It's just easier to use a smart TV app.
Right, yeah,
It's
again, I
there.
don't think we would be able to get numbers on Spectrum Internet, again, but on our website, we can see how many people watch, how long they watch, where they watch from, how many people are clicking on our website on a daily basis, but Spectrum Internet, it would be at a cost to us, and there would be no measurement, once again, but it is a great idea to provide another avenue to bring it to our community.
Is everything
Thank you.
that's archived on your website also archived on YouTube?
Everything for a specific amount, our YouTube account is probably a couple years old, so everything that's a couple years old is on YouTube. If you go to our website, that's also video on demand. There's a huge archive on that goes back to maybe 2014. And then before that, we have tapes. We have a library of tapes.
Could you utilize YouTube to do the live streams also?
You have to be a paid like YouTube Pro to do stuff like that, and we just don't need to. We have all our own equipment, so we can stream to Facebook, to YouTube, to our website, to all these places for free because we own our own streaming equipment. So we just don't need to do that, but we can stream to YouTube with our own gear. Yeah.
Any other questions for Rich? Thank you.
Thank you.
Excellent report.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, the next, on the agenda, it says Spectrum report, but you're not giving a report today.
Right, I have no updates at this time.
Okay, you do know that you are supposed to provide us with a report.
Yeah, if I have updates to give, I usually give them. But
I
have
know,
the updates today.
but you could have, there are things that you could have covered, outstanding questions that we still have. But that's, I just want you to say that, you realize that, but you don't have a report. That's fine. We'll move on.
Okay.
But that's for the record of no report. Okay. Next order of business is Dennis.
There's a subscriber that had a question. Is she still here?
No, she left.
No.
Unfortunately.
George spoke to her while we were waiting for the meeting to start.
Thank you.
What was her issue, George?
More along billing.
Billing.
At least what she shared with me, yeah, it was billing. I gave her some ideas.
Yeah.
have a billing question. How do you, how are they handling ACP? I know what they did with EBB, but what are they doing with ACP?
What is ACP?
It's the Affordable Cable Connectivity allotment, where if, let's say you're getting internet and you're getting cable with it, if there's any excess amount of that fund that's being allotted by the federal government to individuals, especially seniors, people on Social Security, they're giving them $30 a month, but if the internet payment is only $20 a month, they're supposed to give us a breakdown, and then the access, that extra $10 can be applied to that individual's bill.
That's on cable?
Yeah, I think it can be applied to cable.
Yeah, it was during the pandemic. EBB was a federal program, and they, I don't know, spent billions of dollars on it. We participated in that, it was $50 a month. And then they replaced that with
The ACP.
the ACP, which is $30 a month. So we're also participating in that as well.
How come, well, I know from my own experience, by the way, I've called your office, and first of all, on EBB, they told me that they weren't doing it. And on the ACP, I've qualified, and I've now by the way, I've canceled my coverage with Spectrum, yet they won't give me because they won't take the ACP credit.
What town are you in?
I'm right here across the street in Lennox, but I'm on a bundle system, and I'm wondering why they aren't allowing it to be attached to the billing. And I'll be honest with you, I know most of the seniors that are in there, it's probably 30 or 40% of the 69 units that are in there are occupied by seniors, and none of those people are even aware or know that they are entitled to that credit.
Okay. Well, if you give me your information, I can have someone look into it and reach out to you.
Sounds good, great.
Okay.
Okay. So, the five-town Cable Advisory Committee serves the towns of Lee, Lennox, Stockbridge, Great Barrington. Sheffield's been conducting a formal review and ascertainment. The word ascertainment means to make certain of the cable TV needs and services received under our respective charter cable licenses, which expire in the first quarter next year. The Mass Department of Telecommunications and Cable, the DTC, oversees the process and established under federal law. It's supplemented by their own regulations. But the state and federal laws protect a municipality's right to access the cable operator's past performance and determine the future needs and interests of the community. So to that end, we've been conducting a survey of cable subscribers using two different formats to reach the widest possible audience. And there's a graph that shows the population, the subscriber count, average household size. It gives you an idea. Great Barrington is the most populous of the five towns, 7,000. Least is Stockbridge, 2,000. And I put the area, square miles and cable density per square miles because I think it's telling. There's 190-something towns in Massachusetts that offer more than one cable provider. These towns, our towns, are too lightly populated.
You can see that from back here.
That would be my guess. So we use two different formats to reach the widest possible audience, paper and online. The paper surveys were provided in collection boxes placed at the five town halls, libraries, post offices. PDF format was also posted to town websites for subscribers to print out and then mail back. Thanks to Chris Britton and Cindy Bigelow, Town of Lee, they provided access to their SurveyMonkey, their online survey software. So they duplicated identical survey that they put out between March and May. And I can't thank them enough for all their efforts in making that happen. So excellent results, high degree of confidence. So all told, 464 surveys were collected, 286 written subscriber comments, which I think are more telling. more online surveys than paper surveys. I consolidated the survey results into a single report. And statistically, given the 6,392 Spectrum subscribers, the confidence level in the survey is 95%, with a margin of error of 4.38. So highly accurate. Political polling surveys should be that good. And what I think Linda and Renee and I both were pretty surprised at how close the paper and the online surveys meshed. They were within like tenths of a percent. So I think that we got the correct pulse of the community. So which of the 5 towns do you live? Great Barrington, obviously being the most populous, had the most surveys. Full or part-time resident, the vast majority were full-time residents. Do you subscribe to cable TV? And Rich, this addresses that question, that 313 did not subscribe to cable TV, 349 did. So you could extrapolate a response based upon, do you watch cable TV, from this answer. It's we could have done that, but we chose not to. We chose to report the accurate numbers that we received in the survey. What other services do you receive from Spectrum? So you can see the internet, almost everyone has internet, but surprisingly, a large number of people have a landline, 242, and there's mobile and other. If you have cable TV, what level do you subscribe? So pretty even, gold may have been the least at 21, but basic, select, and silver seem to be almost equally represented. And a lot of people just didn't know, they're not familiar with their bill, and they're not aware of the name of the service that they get. If you were, if such an option were available to you, would you prefer to customize your channels? A la carte or pay for what you need kind of service? And 94.9% people say yes, we'd like that. And that's information that we can pass along to Spectrum in terms of what the community wants. They offer this service through their streaming service already. So they're already aware of that. So the next questions, please rate your service level based on the following categories. A scale of 1, extremely dissatisfied, to 5, extremely satisfied. So a scale of 1 to 5. 1-800 Spectrum support. Pretty even. The number of people that were very satisfied matched about the number of people who were very dissatisfied. The average was about 3.06, so neutral. Monthly billing, a little bit below neutral. And you see some of the issues. Most of the people said that they were either satisfied or satisfied, but greater, very dissatisfied ranking. Routine repair and service, a little bit above average. Again, the biggest response was neither satisfied nor satisfied. Emergency service, a little bit below average, but the vast majority of people said it was neutral. Courtesy of employees, this is Spectrum's strongest showing, I think, its service. People in general thought that Spectrum charter employees were very courteous, and they got along with them very well. Very satisfied, somewhat satisfied, were greatly outranked the dissatisfied ones. Resolution issues, again, pretty good showing, 3.22 in terms of average. More were somewhat satisfied and very satisfied than dissatisfied. Picture quality, audio quality was excellent. We got some comments about the mishmash of audio and video. Sometimes they weren't synced properly, but on a whole, digital, what's not to like about digital TV? It's a perfect picture every time. Channel selection and availability, low score. You can see not a lot of people were very satisfied, and you have more that were dissatisfied. The average was 2.79. Cable box modem equipment, again, poor showing. There were, I don't know how many comments of people that said that they had to replace their cable box. One guy that wrote in said that he replaced his 5 or 6 times before he got one that worked. And, who knows, George, what the issue is. Was it the cable box? Was it his wiring? We just don't know. But that's what he wrote down on his survey.
Well, that's actually why I don't have a cable box on any of my TVs.
You had an issue too?
That's why I use the app.
Yeah. So this is a summary. There were 3 that were kind of above water, that good showing on courtesy of employees, picture audio quality, and resolution of issues. 2 that were neutral, routine repair, and then spectrum support, and then 4 that were underwater, the billing, emergency service, channel selection availability, and cable box modem equipment. Do you stream media using a smart device? To me, that's astounding, almost 80%. Yeah,
My
that's
point.
huge.
That's my point.
That's huge.
Yeah.
If yes, okay, which type of smart device do you use? So, all over the place. The biggest response was smart TV, but also Roku and Fire Stick, which I never would have guessed. Yeah, Apple TV is
Which if CTSB is not available in that, on that app, you're losing out on reaching a lot of people.
My guess is that since, 70% of people subscribe to cable TV, they also stream, they have, in addition to Spectrum cable TV, they stream Hulu or Netflix or Amazon Prime or whatever. It's an addition to, as opposed to a replacement. But we didn't have that question. We didn't ask that question.
Yeah.
Do you ever watch community TV for Southern Berkshire? I think, Rich, that was a fair question. How do you determine that? 65 said no, 35% said yeah. So you could go back and you could extrapolate based upon the number of people that were watching TV. But I think that there's an open question there. This was more telling. Are you aware that CTSB moved to channels 1301 and 2 or 3? 75.5% of responders says no, we're unaware that it's there. And that speaks to Dan's comments and to Renee.
It also speaks to the point that we have been making since they were switched up there, that's disaster. To sum up all the different terms we've used
It was a
for
disaster.
moving it up to that channel, those channels, and taking away the fact that they are not being shown in HD, even though they're being produced in HD.
Totally unannounced.
Yeah.
We showed up at work one day and our channels were off the air. We're like, where are we?
That is correct.
We started making phone calls. There was no notice, not even an email.
Mhm.
We were gone.
Yeah, the last license contract that was executed in 13 said that gave Spectrum the ability to do that with a 30-day notice.
Yeah.
So we saw notices that they probably went to the board of selectmen of each of the towns, but just didn't filter down to you because you weren't part of that contract. Yeah.
If I remember right, there was talk years ago of moving the 3 channels.
Yep. Yeah, it was always talk. We knew it was
Yeah.
coming and
Yeah.
it was never announced. Yeah. We just came into work one day and we were off the air.
Mm-hmm.
So it's interesting, and from the feedback that I got from the Pittsfield and North Adams cable or community TV guys, they said that the reason that Spectrum gave at the time was because they were transitioning from RF radio frequency cable TV to digital, and they needed the bandwidth down at the lower
Right.
stations. but in areas where Spectrum shares license agreements in towns that they share with other communities, Spectrum has the community stations down in the lower tier. So there's not maybe there's a technical issue, but it was a
Well,
technical
there was, like you said,
issue.
years ago, there was, because it
Yeah.
it was analog, going
Yeah.
to digital, then going to packet delivery, much like internet,
Yeah.
Was the Pittsfield numbers?
it was a non-issue.
No, this is for South County.
They never moved it back.
I think it's important, could you go back, Dennis? I think it's important to remember that the contract in 13 was with Time Warner,
Correct.
okay? It was not with Spectrum.
Right.
So it is Time Warner who set up the ability to move these channels, okay? Spectrum did it when they took over, at some point, the Time Warner system. I am convinced, having been involved in those negotiations, that Time Warner had plans to do this, or they would not have asked for it.
Right.
Yeah.
And there was specific discussion on that. To me, this slide is an impact slide that says what happened
This is the fallout.
when you move the channels.
Exactly.
Okay, and 75.5% of the people who responded said, yeah, I don't know what happened. Okay, 24.5% over that period of time have figured out where those channels are. But this is an awareness, and it's just a straight impact slide.
Charter
But I do
Spectrum
want
is,
to point out that it was Time Warner that negotiated this contract, not
But,
Spectrum.
yeah, but it also said that in that contract, that they would be in the basic tier. So they tacked those channels into the basic tier, which is kind of dirty pool.
Yeah, digital, they can assign any channel they want to basic.
More than that.
It was more than that, yeah.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
how come there
About
were no
5 or
steps
6 years
taken
ago.
by, like even CTSB to follow up on that?
We've been trying to follow up on it since it happened,
Yeah, still are.
and we still are, and we're not giving up.
Yeah.
Because that's called disaster. Very simple.
There's an incredible amount of money involved if you want to litigate a contract issue. So we, at least most of us here are, I think, are establishing the impact of this, and also Dennis has done an incredible amount of work of establishing how many contracts have not moved the channels. And this will obviously, I think it's no secret that this will be a discussion point in the new contract. But you can easily chew up money that this committee doesn't have, as well as that the towns may or may not be willing to put up. And the FCC has, and the state, in my opinion, has not been very supportive of local issues
They
on
never
these
have.
matters.
Yeah. So Charter Spectrum is a for-profit company. They have an incentive to put stations they make money on in the lower tiers where people watch them. I get that. I understand that. But at the same token, they have to be responsible to the local communities. So I think this is an issue that should and can be negotiated. Whether, we're able to get it or not, that's another thing.
Yeah, and to add insult to injury, not only was it they moved, but they were, when they were on the lower tier, you could not tell them quality-wise from their big brothers and sisters of big paid channels that surrounded them, because the quality was there.
Are we getting bids from any competitors on these issues, or there is no competitor? And
There could
None
be.
who want
there
us.
could be?
Mass law prevents
Could
any exclusive license in any community in
Yeah,
Massachusetts.
these are
So
non-exclusive.
they can, and they already do it at 190 other towns in Massachusetts where there's more than one cable provider in a community. And I have a slide that shows that I can show you at the end of this. So 80%, let me just go through these slides.
Yeah.
80% roughly
The interesting
have
thing
not
is,
visited.
though, Spectrum owns this network. There are provisions in the contract if they were to abandon it, how it would come to the towns. A
Yeah.
new provider would have to negotiate with Spectrum to purchase the existing
Infrastructure.
plant, the assets, or they would get to string all their own stuff. And you saw earlier how big of a market the 5 towns represent. I can't imagine that that would represent a good business experience. But anybody could come up in here if they want to. The door's been open since cable started in these communities.
Someone can come in and do an overbuild, and that's what that's called.
Yeah.
Where someone comes in and runs alongside an existing service. Now, that does exist in part.
That's high capital expense that they won't
Space is
recoup.
We
there
have
on,
competition in Richmond.
the
for
poles.
Richmond Telco.
which frequently it is
Not
not.
video.
Yeah, that's right. But that Richmond Telco was established long before this all happened,
Yes.
before there was
They're
television,
now,
actually.
they were, although I'm going to the pharmacy to hold my call.
Let me
But
just,
they now provide high-speed, they're providing high-speed internet, not video, high-speed.
let me get through the presentation
Yes.
and then maybe address questions, because we're not going to be able to finish, and it's important that you do. So 80% of the people have never gone to the website. And most people never watch it. What of the programs that you've seen, town or selectmen meetings were, the largest response. And I think the town or selectmen meetings, town meetings were more important during the pandemic. I think people really, really relied upon that. So, thank you. While people got to stay home, Rich and his team did not. They had to show up. Are you aware that town meetings events, that most people said no, they're not aware. And by the way, these last, the last 6 or 7 questions were based upon Rich's recommendation that we place them in a survey. So this is your input. So, there were 286 additional comments, and I don't want to paraphrase. We're going to post the survey results that'll have all 286 comments. But I think most people prefer it. 95% prefer a la carte programming. Most people say a common comment was it's just too expensive, too many rate increases. There's no senior pricing. That they want Massachusetts, not New York stations, and there's a lot of reasons for that. They want to watch Mass sports teams. They want to watch Mass stations, Boston stations that have news regarding laws and regulations that affect them, that's poorly covered through the New York stations. But that's not Spectrum's doing. That's based upon
That's the FCC.
Old FCC. It can be changed, but it's going to require a big, heavy slog.
I actually
Get there.
negotiated that deal.
Oh, you did?
I was part of the negotiating.
You're kidding. Wow.
As to the 75-mile radius and which stations can go into which markets.
Yeah.
I was part of that
Wow.
50 years ago.
In general, unfavorable grades on billing and cable boxes. A lot of people strongly had strong feelings about that. The biggest billing issue was late billing. They would get this is what they're telling us. They would get their bill after it was due. The Mass law requires that the cable bills be billed 5 days, no less than 5 days before they're due. But I'll tell you, it takes 5 days for a letter to get anywhere. So people are getting the bill that's late. It's not supposed to happen, but evidently it does. And what our responsibility, I think, is to get specific names and issues and forward them to John or to Spectrum for action. And a lot of residents expressed interest in an alternative. So right now, we're in ascertainment. The Mass DTC says that we should perform the following to determine the issues, to determine the following needs and interests of the community. And the first one was to solicit a survey, which we've done. We've met with community organizations. We've also reviewed the cable operators' financial forms. We've reviewed the customer complaint records. We've obtained and we've looked at the service areas. Maybe some holes in Sheffield, but it may be in Great Barrington, but it looked pretty good to us. We have not toured the cable operators' technical facilities, but I don't think we'd see much, George. And then the cable licenses provided by the other communities in Massachusetts. There's 447 licenses in Massachusetts. And this is the slide that I thought would be important for people. Spectrum Charter has about 70. This is at the end of the start of 2020. This is the latest data on the website. Comcast is the biggest provider. Verizon, RCN, Cox. 3 towns, Richmond may be one, I didn't look at that, that have service, cable TV service provided through the town. 39 towns in Massachusetts don't have cable TV.
When you say through the town, what do you mean?
The town, actually, it's through the town, you pay the town.
The town that has their
We
own
don't
wire.
deny.
Right,
It could be Mount Washington.
right. Russell was one example.
Yeah.
Russell sold their system back to Comcast. Didn't work out for them. There's 193 towns with one provider, 106 with 2 providers. There's towns with 3 providers, 14, and Charter has the share town 7.
There's only a slight problem with that, and I have no idea what the numbers are, but there is no indication there of towns that have, for instance, fiber-provided internet service that
Yes.
technically is not classified as a cable service,
Correct.
but has the potential to compete with cable because of its
It has-
capability.
As long as it has bandwidth.
1 gigabyte bandwidth is pretty impressive, and that's,
So
you know,
to be on this list, you
Yeah.
have to have a license.
you have to have a license, exactly.
Right.
That's what I'm saying. So it's that, you can have a town that has cable TV, but not in what we see as a normal sense,
And that's the
typical
way the
sense.
state counts it.
You know, yeah, oh yeah.
And the fact that Dennis said that it's almost 2+ years old, you miss people like potentially Egremont who finished.
Right.
and
Monterey.
New Marlboro.
Monterey,
Yeah.
and New Marlboro.
Tyringham.
The Spectrum. 2 years old data is 2 years old data.
Yeah, it happens quick.
MBI has
Technology.
been providing a ton of money to try and take towns that have had no service and bring them up to service that's better than the rest of
Yeah.
ours.
We have Fiber Connect who's been doing Egremont.
Yeah.
They're in Great Barrington now. They're providing broadband internet wireless service in downtown Great Barrington.
Yeah.
They're serving the
Barrington.
Flying Church. They're attached to the town
At a
hall.
cost,
You know,
at a
so.
cost.
Can we continue
Right.
here?
Yeah,
please?
I don't want to get off topic.
So,
Sorry.
so we're making our way through ascertainment. We haven't gotten all the feedback that we should, but that's going to be part of the ascertainment report that gets folded into an RFP. So the RFP, request for proposal to Charter Spectrum, will be our assessment of what our community and future needs are for a contract. And from that, hopefully they look at that and they provide us with a draft contract. In between there, I think that we have to contact the issuing authorities, provide them with our recommendations, and get their input, to move forward, because it's issuing authorities that actually sign the contract. It's not this committee.
No.
So Dennis, I know we haven't discussed this, but there's no reason, I'm assuming that, is the RFP going to be noticed in the register and the normal places that RFPs usually go? so that if another provider wanted to, for some reason, provide service, they would have an opportunity. Is this an exclusive request for proposal? Because the state has said that it doesn't make exclusivity part of a provider's
Well,
presence
this
in the
is
town?
This is a request for proposal for a contract renewal.
Yeah.
Okay, it's not a new contract, or it wouldn't prevent anyone else from coming in, but I know, I put that first couple slides up that showed the density per mile in terms of cable. It's just not cost effective for a company to string
No,
cable in the Berkshires.
I understand that,
It's
but
too
I'm
expensive.
always interested in what
Yeah.
people are doing. It would say that this is, if the state on one hand said that this is a non-exclusive relationship, and then says that you can only issue it to the one you have the contract with, that's kind of, seems to be incompatible.
The closest thing that I could see coming is home 5G, but we're going to require someone like Verizon or T-Mobile or someone like that to put a lot of boxes on poles within 1,000 feet of a residence.
Repeaters.
Because the data is so fast, it's sent at a high frequency, and it doesn't have much of a, I think it has a range of about 1,000 yards, 1,000 feet rather.
You know what I wanted to share with you real quick
For-
with regards to that? I have 4G LTE now.
Yeah.
And I have to tell you, it's more than adequate. I'm really pretty
Yeah.
satisfied.
Yeah.
My-
I don't think
And,
5G
so-
is gonna come to the Berkshires.
It's-
Different
So,
frequency,
it'll filter
10-mile
down.
range
It's gonna
for
go up Route 7.
for 4G,
Right.
10 miles versus
Well, I
1,000
live
feet.
right across the street and I'm able to get a signal. I've been using it for 6 months.
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
I think
I
for
would
George,
really
maybe, no, it's
like
something
to
like
ask this
35,
committee-
40 kilobytes for cable transmission or for a TV transmission. The
Like
bandwidth,
to stream, yeah.
yeah, something like that, it's not a lot.
Right.
Yeah, so after hopefully we get a review or proposal from Spectrum, Charter Spectrum, and we'll have a couple months to review it. We'll have to go back to the issuing authorities, and we'll have to provide them with a yes or no, and then if no, a reason why. Yeah. And I think that this is really, really important in terms of licenses, what's in and out of scope. We cannot negotiate the price of cable service or added fees. We can't negotiate programming. The FCC, federal, state says you can't do that. What we can talk about is our town and community needs, our resident input and consumer complaints and stuff that we can show through this survey, Spectrum's performance or the non-performance, underserved parts of the community, suggestions to improve service. We can do a license comparison with other towns that we've done so far. There's not a lot that have renewed in 2022 yet. And we can also, this license obligates the provider to provide capital operational funding for community TV.
Yeah.
So those are the things that we can negotiate. We can provide information to Spectrum, but we cannot negotiate cost and programming.
And there's no federal funding involved for that?
No,
No,
It's just not available, or?
no.
there is none.
There is federal funding
Really?
if you want to build out your own network
Infrastructure.
and can compete with the tribes and large segments of the country. I've looked at federal grants for our town. It's not worth doing. MBI is going to be coming out with some money. They have not said how it's going to be used. Their money for the last umpteen years has been used only to help those communities that have no service. So MBI is to announce in the next couple of months what they're going to be spending the next chunk of money on, some of which is federal, from my understanding. But unless you want to build your own network, you have someone who provides it for you, like Spectrum. And then we're back into the issue of our size, the cost of someone coming in and competing against an established vendor. I mean, you can do the math. Where's the business incentive for someone to come in and, as Dan said, build a brand new network? It's not cheap
It's
and
not-
not easy to do.
This last slide just shows the rate April 1st increase, and my best guess was $161 a year. The average person would be impacted by the rate increase, and it's crazy. I don't like it. If you look at their numbers, Spectrum's doing very well, and they are, you could call them a monopoly in Berkshire County because there's no other provider. But at the same time, you would say, well, what are the other cable companies in Massachusetts? What are their rates? What are Comcast? What are Cox? What are their rates? And from what I can see, they're competitive. The only alternative that I think people can have to lower their rate, drastically lower their rate, is through streaming services, and that's not cable TV. That's it.
Okay.
Any questions? There's a lot of information there.
Yeah.
So what we hope to post this survey, the detailed survey that will provide your board president the information, the detailed information that she can use to determine, the viewership. That'll be posted in the next week, hopefully, on the town websites, with all, 280-something comments.
I would like to thank Dennis and Linda for their work on this. I think Dennis has been the major data.
I was going to say Dennis has done the heavy lifting.
Thank you. It's a team effort, and it takes
Yes.
all of us, I think.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to give you extra credit because you have really
Thank
dug
you.
into this and done
That's
the
great,
analysis
yeah.
that has presented this so well.
It gives
Yeah.
us a foundation for a change.
So if you ever want to ask me to data mine the databases that I pulled up, let me know. If you have any questions about licenses that renewed in past years, about by company, or by area, by whatever, let me know.
In the course of Dennis's search for information, he has not only what we have here, because this just relates to the survey, but he has a lot of other stuff that I can't even start to tell you how much other information Dennis has mined.
Is that information available?
Yes, it's all public information.
You can just tell me what you need, and I'll send
I
it
was
to you.
interested in the ascertainment survey.
Yeah, that'll be-
That we can, give us your email address, I'll send it to you now.
That's also going to be
That'll be
on the-
posted in the next week, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm co-chair of the Richmond Cable Negotiating.
Oh, nice.
Oh, okay.
But we don't quite have this type of information.
Did you
I
sign?
just came in, no, I came in.
Okay, there's a sheet there,
I'll fill
if you, to request,
Okay.
you can request the whole survey results.
So it's,
Dennis, I looked at this at some point, and it's just not sticking in my memory. I seem to remember that.
Which, do you have the right sheet there?
I have to.
That had
Attendance.
multiple.
No, the other
or more
one.
I'll fill
Cable
this in and I'll-
providers,
yeah.
Okay.
had larger populations and were more eastern centric in Massachusetts.
yeah, just because
Other
of the
than
population
Springfield.
density.
Yeah.
Let me show you how easy it is for me to retrieve if you need any information. You find it first. That's always the problem, isn't it? Finding it on your, I'm getting there. There it is.
Well,
I thought it just was there.
Did you unplug by you? There you go.
Hit it with a bigger hammer.
So this is a filter, I don't know, you might be able to use this for Richmond, but this is all the towns, they go down, or I put them in alphabetical order, but we can just select how many contracts does Charter have. Bang, there they are, each town. or how many does Charter share with other towns? It can, very few, actually, not, only 7. Those are the 7, and exclusively with Verizon. So you tell me what you need to or with 3 providers. 14.
And Verizon wouldn't be interested in coming into our community to compete against them, or would there be conflicts of interest?
You know, that's a business decision. There's nothing to prevent them from coming, and I think they will. Both
Eventually.
Verizon and T-Mobile are spending hundreds of millions of dollars rolling out home 5G.
But
And once you have those receivers, they can they don't have to run cable to each home. All they have to do is get a transmitter receiver within 1,000, 1,500 feet of your house, and that might be more economical.
And if that became a reality, what would you do? Just cut out the cable with
Well, it gets complicated in that would it be a cable TV contract, or would it be a streaming TV contract? And that's why I think it's important that the state legislation evens out the.
How come they're just not going streaming across the board and just eliminate cable? I mean, it's because of the program that enough people want it.
Public will make that decision.
No,
You know-
it's FCC.
is that,
Yeah.
that's.
That's an FCC
That's an
issue.
FCC issue.
Yeah.
And there are major, and FCC doesn't just look at, our 5 towns, and FCC looks at the whole country.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there are major portions of the country that are, have even more cable problems than we do.
There's no community that I know of, I don't know, George, maybe you can tell me I'm wrong, but there's no community that is using RF to transmit cable TV. They're using RF to transmit data, but not cable TV.
There's a new technology called ATSC3
Yeah.
that transmits both over-the-air streaming and cable signals.
And
It's just started.
Yeah,
It's
and,
just, yeah, it's-
and I
stars.
will venture a guess that is going to gain tremendous support from the FCC, because that covers major areas that are
And it's,
lower populations than, which is what we are, we're a D,
and there's virtually no
we
cost.
are considered rural,
Yeah.
and rural populations have this issue. And I can see that the FCC going
They're
along with
encouraging
that, yeah.
But in the meantime, we have a contract to renegotiate with
Yes.
our provider. And
Yes.
we'll talk about what can be or could be,
And,
but we have to focus on what is.
well, at least we have talking points.
Yes, oh yes, absolutely.
And we will continue those discussions. Do we have any more questions about the presentation? As Dennis said, this whole presentation, just give us your email address and we'll ship it
And
right
again, it
out.
will be on each of the 5 towns'
Yeah, websites.
website, their municipal website.
I have to say I'm impressed. Seriously,
We've come a long way, baby.
A long way. I'm involved in this, in my own way, on a daily basis, internet and databases and the whole 9 yards. The concept is not new, but it's nice to see that, the kind of work that went into this, in bringing up the numbers. I don't know, beyond local management, there's nobody from corporate here from Spectrum, right, at the moment?
Well, no, we have.
We do? Okay.
So
Well,
John is
But I
from
think down the road, and I don't want to get off topic, but I think down the road it behooves Spectrum to come to the table.
All right, we have, John is here from Spectrum, and
Okay.
George is here from Spectrum. George is tech.
Okay,
And-
well, I'm talking,
and
but they
John-
don't do the
John is our
negotiation.
liaison.
They do?
John
Okay,
does.
okay.
John will be in the,
So I think it behooves Spectrum to come to the table in good faith, realizing that a cable TV license is not the only way, you know, for cable TV to reach people. And there are inroads for other companies to come in and replace normal, what's considered normal cable TV service, whether it's through an app or
Yeah.
whether it's through a cable box. You know, Fiber Connect in Great Barrington. There's been talk about looking into extending the line into Housatonic. You know, I mean, people who are gonna receive TV-type programming through an internet 1 gigabit bandwidth provider, they're gonna tell cable, take a hike. You know, we don't need internet and cable TV. I can buy a package through this service.
Dan, that's a subject for another meeting.
No, I know. I just
Okay.
felt that I just had to get that out there, that
But also,
that this is,
understand something, that the demographics of our 5 towns are very skewed to an older generation.
right,
And that older generation, the lady who was here who left, she expressed that she doesn't want to stream. She doesn't want to do this stuff on the internet. She doesn't want to do that. She just wants her TV,
yeah.
okay? And there's a lot of people here like that, and we have to accommodate all of that because they are a
Understandable.
major population here.
Right,
I would also tell you that finding channels on a streaming universe, you have to scroll through. And it is, whereas with cable universe,
it's channel oriented, right.
Okay, I want to wrap this up because I think, we've covered all this. The next step with this will be for future meetings, okay? Anyway, so unless there's something else that's separate from this, that relates to this, but is separate, I want to move on and just say that we have just something simple. Actually, some of it has been answered, because I was going to say we need some more people on our committee. And last time I asked for more people, we actually got more people. So I'm happy about that, but we still have some empty slots. You have 2 slots in Sheffield, right?
I think we have 3. But we do our appointment process at the end of June. So if there's any applicants who are interested, those letters of interest are coming in right now, and we will appoint for the upcoming fiscal year. We'll start at our next meeting on
All
the
right, so
20th.
you'll appoint 3 people, and then you just keep your status as,
If 3 people apply. I haven't looked at the letters since the last meeting of interest.
okay.
So, but most, I believe most towns can appoint on an ongoing basis, but there's usually a process at the start of the new fiscal year where a lot of people are appointed to positions that are annually reappointed.
But Great Barrington now has an additional rep. We still have 1 opening.
Right.
So we have 1 opening in Great Barrington. We have a prospective member for Lennox. Are you interested?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so then I'll tell you about the process to get you.
Excellent.
Okay. So then we're full because we're 3. And then we have Sheffield and Stockbridge. Stockbridge has 3, technically. One of them never comes to meetings because he's on the planning board and they meet the same time we do. But he does do stuff. And how many do we have in Lee? 2?
2.
2. So we have an opening in Lee.
And we have 2 in Sheffield, because we get 3, and I've asked to be reappointed. So there's 2 openings.
Okay, so we have openings at this point in 3 of the 5 towns. So just, if you're interested, go to your town hall and talk to your town clerk. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
In terms, in Sheffield too? Yeah, okay. Because there are requirements besides just saying, I want to do it. And CTSB can always use volunteers. You do not have to be a member to be a volunteer, and you don't have to be a volunteer to be a member. So they're always looking for new members and for volunteers. Is there any other business?
No, but just to talk about Rich and the station, I think once people visit, once people go to your online and see the vast number of shows, the variety of stuff that you do, the town meetings or wherever, I think people are sold. I think that we just got to get them there.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I just have a really quick question, and ignorance on my part, but I know we transitioned from totally volunteer to paid videographers for town meetings and so on and so forth. Is that still the case?
No, I think as we lost the in-person meetings and went to switch to Zoom,
Yeah.
the in-person videographers, it was something they were either interested in or capable of doing. It was, we train the towns, we add passwords to our agendas, and so no, we lost all our people. We went from 7 to like 2 in a matter of months. So that was something. That was something we lost, and that's why we now have a part-time videographer on our staff to make up for that.
Are there any additional questions? Seeing no other questions, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Thank you. Oh, one other piece of, it's not a business, it's just the next meeting is September 13th, and it's in Lee, and we don't have a Lee person here today, so I will take care of informing them of that.
I assume it's at the town hall.
Yeah, it's normally in the town hall, in the old
Courtroom?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's September 13th, 6:30 in Lee, and that does it for us.
Okay.